What's up, everyone, and welcome into episode number 497, where the Detroit Lions go into Ohio and gets a 37-24 win over the Cincinnati Bengals. We also have some Tigers talk as well, with the ALDS currently going on, a 1-1 series against the Seattle Mariners. Absolutely will be talking about that at the end of this, but obviously need to get into the Lions. 4-1 on the year right now with a 13-point win over the Cincinnati Bengals. A truly homecoming game for David Montgomery, and you can truly tell that it was a homecoming game for David Montgomery. He was more involved, and that's something that I absolutely love seeing. You need to get David Montgomery involved. He's the guy that truly brings the punch of this duo of David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, obviously, we all love Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs is lightning fast. You got Sonic and Knuckles. Obviously, David Montgomery, Knuckles, he brings the punch. This was a big homecoming game for him. One touchdown in this game through the air, which was absolutely fantastic to see. Really kind of brought him back to his high school days when he was a starting quarterback. Great throw by David Montgomery. You absolutely love to see that. He also had one touchdown on the ground as well. Jahmyr Gibbs did as well. 14th time that has ever happened with a score from David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs in a single game. It actually ties the NFL record. I truly think that this duo is going to set that this year. I truly think that this duo is just so electric that you're going to get both of these guys in the end zone for another game. Jared Goff, I thought, was great in this game. 19 for 23, 258 yards, 3 touchdowns. He continues to be as effective, as efficient, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. And I don't like the idea that Jared Goff isn't getting the love or even in the conversation for MVP. Like, Jared Goff, outside of week 1, has been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL to date. Like, if you look at statistically, he is right up there. Truly the only stat that truly he isn't right up there, and he's still pretty close, is the amount of yards he's thrown for. Like, Jared Goff has been that good. He truly needs to be in that conversation, and truly was that good in this game. And it truly helps when you have guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, 8 receptions, 100 yards. He continues to be a security blanket for Jared Goff. Sam Laporta, fantastic game. You absolutely love to see it, especially after last year. You felt like Sam Laporta wasn't involved a whole ton. He truly was involved in this game. 5 receptions, 92 yards, 1 touchdown. He's going to be a guy that's going to be extremely important for this team going forward. Jahmyr Gibbs, I've already mentioned. He did have a receiving touchdown in this game. I believe it was a 20-yard touchdown. A great job of getting through tackles, scoring a touchdown. And then Isaac Tesla ended up being really the touchdown that truly sealed this thing for the Lions, because at one point the Lions were up 28-3. Then the Bengals end up scoring 14 straight points after that, and it really started to get a little bit uncomfortable if you're a Lions fan going into that fourth quarter. You don't necessarily love seeing that, especially when you saw the Super Bowl, the 28-3. I was getting a little bit of flashbacks. I'm like, I truly don't want this to get anywhere close to that. But obviously, the Isaac Tesla touchdown catch obviously put this game away. And then truly this defense. I thought this defense was great in this game. Now, I do think towards the end of the game, Jamar Chase was able to get going a little bit. There was one double move that he did on Amir Robertson that not only was a great double move, but you truly cannot allow that, especially for where the Lions were at in that game. Now, I know Jamar Chase is extremely talented, one of the best, if not the best, wide receiver in the NFL. He's going to get his, but I thought this defense, for the most part, not only were able to get Jake Browning, which I thought Jake Browning struggled mightily in this game. He had, I believe, at least 3 interceptions in this game. One of those was obviously to Kirby Joseph, so you love seeing that. He did end up taking actually an interception away from Terrion Arnold, which probably frustrated him a little bit. You don't see that in his reaction. Terrion Arnold's been someone that has been kind of in the headlines as of recently, really been kind of the one defender on this defense that a lot of people have been attacking, saying he's not playing well. He did have a huge holding call that ended up, I believe, taking away a safety from the Lions. You don't love seeing that. He does get handsy a little bit, had 2 penalties in this game, but there were times where I thought he played extremely well. Now, he needs to continue to do that. He needs to stop getting handsy, and it's going to be something to keep an eye on for, because it sounds like Terry Arnold is not going to be back anytime soon, at least according to Dan Campbell in a press conference earlier today. So if you look at the secondary, you don't have Reed, you don't have Terry Arnold. Amik Robertson is going to be your number 1 corner at this point, which he was great in this game. Like, he was fantastic in this game. But who's going to be your number 2? And I thought Rakius Sin was pretty good in this game. He did get hurt a couple of times. I think the Lions are really going to have to address this defensive back room, especially when it comes to the corner room. I think, obviously, with Branch, with Kirby Joseph, you're good there. It's going to be truly dependent on what this corner room is going to look like, and also this pass rush as well. I thought Aiden Hutchinson continues to dominate. I think he continues to truly be in the running for one of the best defensemen in the entire NFL, one of the best defensive ends as well. I believe he's the odds-on favorite to win the Defensive Player of the Year. Right now, he absolutely deserves to be the favorite. The way he's been making plays, the way he's been able to get to the quarterback, the way he's been able to use his arm to have a couple of sack fumbles. Like, Aiden Hutchinson is doing everything you want for him, and you really have to give credit again to Kelvin Shepard for his ability to get pressure on the quarterback. You had a guy in Derek Barnes that I honestly think has been really good. He's been a guy that has been underappreciated this year. He ended up having a sack to give the Lions a 13-point lead at the end of this game. He's a guy that last year I think fans really didn't understand how much the Lions missed him defensively. I think Derek Barnes has been great. I also think you have a guy in Alex Anzalone, had an interception in this game. Now, obviously, it wasn't a great throw by Jake Browning, but, like, he's making plays. And then you continue to have just guys on this defensive line. Tyleik Williams had another bad pass. You have a guy in Jack Campbell that is continuing to get better every single week. This defense is making plays. This defensive line is getting pressure. I feel like that is the thing that people aren't talking enough about, is we can talk about how good offensively this team is. They're averaging more points than they did last year. They have the weapons. I know there's been a huge conversation about J-Mo ever since getting the contract extension, maybe not being as involved or not having as many catches or as yards as people have wanted to do. And obviously you want him to perform well. You want him to get involved in this game. Now, obviously, people send videos out to Twitter. There's one video of a catch by Amon-Ra that was basically wide open in the middle of the field. You see 2 guys go J-Mo's direction. Now, obviously, is that in itself worth the contract extension? No, not necessarily. You need to get him more involved. You try to see him get involved early on in this game. There was an end around to him that the Cincinnati Bengals did a very good job of defending. They're trying to get him involved. I think the Lions need to continue to try to get involved. I think he's just that good, that fast. They need to figure out ways to get him the ball. But there's just a ton of weapons with this offense. This offensive line has been pretty good. I think Manu getting his first start at left tackle, he had some good moments, bad moments. I know Dan Campbell talked a little bit about that. He's going to obviously have growing pains. That's going to have to be something to keep an eye on for what Taylor Decker is going to look like. Is he going to be able to play very much? But truly, this team in this game, I truly thought performed pretty well. And I think rightfully deserves a ton of praise for how they played. Defensively, flew around. Offensively, did exactly what they needed to do. And you can truly see that this team is bought in. 4 wins in a row. There's a huge opportunity next week against the Chiefs. Sunday Night Football. Definitely going to continue to keep an eye on that. If you end up winning that game, especially with the secondary the way this is, I truly think you're back in the conversation, though you should already be in that conversation of competing for a Super Bowl, because that is how well this team is playing right now. They need to get some of these guys back. We don't know exactly when it's going to be, but there's a real possibility you could get a couple guys back for this next game, which would be absolutely huge. But you love seeing the Lions win. You love seeing the Lions play well against the Cincinnati Bengals. And turns out Michigan owns Ohio when it comes to college and professional as well, because obviously Tigers just beat the Guardians. Michigan beat Ohio State last year. Lions just beat the Bengals. Lions beat the Browns. Michigan State beat Youngstown State. There's a ton of different memes, tons of different gifs going around of that. So you absolutely love to see that. Hopefully that continues. But a really great win for the Lions against a Bengals team that is truly starting to kind of slip a little bit ever since the Joe Burrow injury that they've had. But yeah, that's my thoughts on this Lions game. Obviously need to talk a little bit more about the Tigers. I haven't talked about the Tigers a lot, obviously, because of kind of the collapse that they did have. They did make it into the postseason, end up winning against the Guardians, won that series. Tree Schoolball, fantastic in that series. Got a huge performance from Jack Flaherty, obviously, to get the Tigers into the ALDS against the Seattle Mariners. Now, this series, in my opinion, has gone exactly the way that Tigers fans probably have wanted to go. There was a real opportunity that going into Comerica, which actually just got sold today, and it sounds like they are changing the name, so might not be able to say Comerica too much anymore, especially going into next year. But going into Comerica, I think if you ask Tigers fans, their goals were to at least go into Comerica with a 1-1 series, because you did not want to go into Comerica down 0-2. That's extremely difficult. Now, it could have very much been possible, but you end up winning game 1, which if you really want to talk about, that Troy Melton start, fantastic. Really only made one mistake in that start. He continues to attack the zone. He has so much confidence, especially as a rookie, and especially for as young as he is. You absolutely love to see that. And I believe the last rookie to get a start in the postseason was actually JV, I believe was the last one that I remember seeing a stat for. So it's been a little while. I could be wrong, but I think it was Justin Verlander was the last rookie starter that the Tigers have had. With that being said, you did have an opportunity yesterday to get this lead to 2-0. And I thought Tariq Skubal in that game was pretty good. He had 2 mistake pitches that Blanco for the Mariners hit for a home run. He doesn't hit a ton of home runs, but he hit 2 of them, end up getting up 2-0 in this game. And that's just kind of been the way the Tigers have had opportunities, is that when they get down early, they have been really struggling to score runs. Now, to the Tigers' credit, when they've gotten down early, especially in this series, they've responded with huge hits. And that's the most important part of it, is you obviously had a huge home run by Kerry Carpenter in the first game. You had a huge hit from Torque in the second game in the top of the 8th to tie it. You're going to have to continue to have those moments. Now, do I think this clutch hitting when you absolutely necessarily need it is going to win them the series? I don't necessarily know. I think the Tigers need to be better overall. And I think just this clutch hitting when you absolutely need it to happen, do I think it's going to end in a good result for the Tigers? No. Honestly, I don't think it's going to end in a good result. I think it's going to end in the Mariners winning the series, in my opinion. Now, does that mean that I don't want these clutch situations to happen? No, absolutely not. What that means is I want the Tigers to be able to have these big hits when they need it early in the game. The Tigers have left too many guys on base to be in a point in a game where you truly need a hit from Spencer Torkelson to tie the game in the 8th inning. The Tigers had plenty of opportunities against the Guardians. Now, they were able to convert those opportunities in the third game. I think the Tigers need to be better. And I think when the Tigers were at their best, yes, they were hitting home runs, but they were able to move the guys up every single time. It was always a guy on first. He would get a single. He would go first to third. This is just the way that the Tigers have addressed it. This is the way the Tigers have succeeded. And they haven't been able to do that. And when they have been able to do that, they still can't get the guy across base. There's been multiple times where it's been second and third, 0 outs, or second and third, 1 out. No one scores. In postseason baseball, you cannot have that. Like, you're going to have big moments. You're going to have big games. You're going to have big atmospheres. We've already seen that. The first 2 games were absolutely spectacular if you're watching as a baseball fan. This is what October baseball is about. It's about making the big plays when you need to, but it's about taking care of opportunities when you have it. And the Tigers have had it. They need to be better at it. And I truly think going back to Comerica, they will be better. I truly think that this offense, if they can get going in a game, they will be able to put up points. And in Game 3, they have Jack Flaherty going, which in my opinion was the correct move. Jack Flaherty against the Cleveland Guardians was absolutely spectacular in his performance. When Jack Flaherty is in a big spot, he's been pretty good at succeeding in that big spot. And no hate to Casey Mize. I thought Casey Mize in his performance was pretty good as well. When you have a big spot and you need a win at home, especially in Game 3, if you end up winning Game 3, you are at least guaranteed Game 5 in Seattle. And I don't think as a Tigers fan you necessarily want to get to a Game 5 in Seattle. But then you have Tree Skubal going. And if I'm a Tigers fan going into Game 5, no matter where it is, as long as you have Tree Skubal pitching that game, I fully believe you can win that game. And unfortunately, you didn't do it yesterday. I don't think Tree Skubal has done it this year, but it's not like Tree has performed poorly. He didn't perform poorly yesterday. Like, it's about this offense putting runs through. And this offense needs to support their pitchers. Kyle Finnegan obviously ended up blowing the game in the 8th. Tigers did not obviously score in the 9th. And now you're 1-1 going into Comerica. And like I said at the beginning of this, I think if you're a Tigers fan going into the series, you're 1-1 going into Comerica. You don't necessarily know the result of the Game 1 of Game 2. You would be happily to take it. Now, obviously, with you winning Game 1, you would love to win Game 2, and then you would only have to win one of the next 3. But you're in a good spot right now if you're a Tigers. It's about just making the right moves. It's about getting the big hit, not necessarily when you need to, but when you have the opportunity to. And if the Tigers can do that, if the Tigers can put runs across the board when they have runners in scoring positions, they will be okay. They just need to be able to do that. They were able to do that in the last game against the Guardians. They've struggled so far against the Mariners. Hopefully they can do that. Hopefully they can get better. Hopefully they can get good starting performances from guys like Jack Flaherty and Casey Mize. Because if they can get it, that's really, truly going to help this bullpen. And I think with Tree Skubal going 7 innings yesterday, I think that's also going to help them as well. But I'm excited to see what the Tigers do against the Mariners at home. I think you're going to see an absolutely packed Comerica. I think it's going to be a fun atmosphere. Hopefully it's going to be a fun game. Hopefully this offense shows up if you're a Tigers fan. And if they truly do and they win Game 3, there could be real conversations going into Game 4 and Game 5 with the chance for the Tigers to end up going to the ALCS, which obviously right now looks like it's going to be the Toronto Blue Jays, which looks absolutely unstoppable offensively. We'll talk about that if that gets to it, but it's about winning Game 3 or winning Game 4, at least hopefully winning the series in 4 games, or at least giving you a chance in Game 5. And if you're going into Game 5 with Tree Skubal, I would take that over anything, especially for the way that this team collapsed down the stretch. But yeah, that's really it for episode number 497. Lots to talk about, lots of Tigers, lots of Lions. Love seeing both of these teams perform well, do exactly what they need to do. Obviously, you have the Tigers game later tonight. Going to definitely be watching that. Hopefully, have a huge win there. Win Game 3, maybe win Game 4. Let's just try to win this series and see what happens next, because when it comes to October baseball, you never truly know what happens. It's about when teams play the best. It's about when teams have the opportunity to score. to take advantage of that. And hopefully the Tigers can do exactly that tonight. But yeah, that is a wrap to episode number 497. Thank you for tuning into this episode, and tune in to the next one.